You're listening to Nonprofits Today, the podcast that showcases the incredible impact nonprofits have in our ever-changing world. The podcast that gets the pulse on today's economic, social, political, and humanitarian climate straight from frontline leaders, innovative changemakers, and courageous risk takers in our communities and around the globe. And now, without further ado, here's your host, Sarah Box.
Hey there, welcome to our opening episode of the Nonprofits Today episode. I'm Sarah Box, the host of the podcast, and I'm joined today by two very special co-hosts, Ken Fay and Summer Zipko. And you're going to be hearing from all of us throughout this opening episode because we each come at this from a professional perspective and a heart perspective. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, but I want to welcome you and let you know a bit about who we are, why we're doing this, and what the future holds. So I'm super excited about it. But Ken and Summer, you have been in the trenches designing this. So Ken, what are you excited about for this new podcast and what it makes possible?
You know, for me, it makes possible it gives a stage, it gives a platform for nonprofits to stand on and to speak from about everything that they do, how they do it, the challenges they have to overcome, and the challenges that they do overcome. And that just creates it's just a dynamic of energy and storytelling, which to me is really close to my heart. And so this is going to be, it's exciting. It's exciting to hear what's already come and what's coming in this show. So part of launching Nonprofits Today, I believe, does come from the long success of No Labels, No Limits, which is 8 years strong. Is that right? And it's what, over 300 episodes at this point? Is that correct?
Yeah. Sarah and I, when we started that, it was almost 8 years ago, and we put out, I think it was 6 episodes at once, so everybody could get a good taste of what we were doing. So we're just kind of, using that same system and putting out a new topic, which we think is really timely. So after, 356 episodes is this week, we're well on our way to having it figured out. So we're excited to bring this new topic to the stage.
And are some of those guests, Sarah, are they from the ones coming on to Nonprofits Today? Are they people that were interviewed on No Labels, No Limits?
Not yet. There are people who I interviewed who could have been on No Labels, No Limits because they have a background there or they have done work in either faith-based nonprofits. There's a couple people coming to mind that I actually want to invite to come back in to Nonprofits Today to talk through that lens because they have a different perspective and they were such great guests on No Labels, No Limits. So, people are great. They always say, let me know what I can do to help. So I'm just going to say, hey, we would love for you to be on our new podcast because you can help this broader community of nonprofit organizations here in the States and beyond. So Summer, we are not new to the world of podcasting, and you and I go back together on this, but why is now the right time for nonprofits today?
Nonprofits they face a lot of challenges, but they don't always get the recognition they deserve. So I think now there's no better time than now to try to shine a light on their work, give examples of their struggles so that we can all learn and, help provide them with some solutions that they may not be aware of or, just new things that we've learned from each other. So this is kind of a collaborative effort here.
Absolutely. So then let's talk a little bit about the origin of nonprofits today.
On that note, so I know, Sarah, that you have a lot of experience, like way before we met 8 years ago, way beyond that. You've been in the nonprofit space since probably you were a kid, I think. Do you want to share some of those stories with us so that we can all understand how far you've come and how deep you were in the trenches way back when?
I'm happy to. I can say I've been in the nonprofit world for decades, but not as long as being a kid. So actually, my introduction to nonprofits, because I really didn't know much about them at all, was as someone who needed a nonprofit service. I had someone who became a very dear friend, but at the time was a work colleague, and she was going through a really tough spot. And I don't know what possessed me, but I was the only person. You ever been in a room and everybody's going along and you're thinking, doesn't anybody see this stuff happening over here? Nobody's noticing it, right? But I'm thinking something's very wrong. And so I thought, And I'm worried about her. Like, is she even going to harm herself? Which, mind you, in my past work experience and life, I never dealt with that. So I'm like way out of my water, my depth here. So I looked in our phone directory, no cell phones at the time, and find out that in our community, we actually had a hotline. So I called them and said, this is what I'm seeing. And what does it mean? Does it mean anything? And I'm praying, tell me it means nothing. Everything's good. They say, oh, this is what it means. And here's the action steps you need to take. So I did that. The gal who was the person who sat on that hotline at the time, she said, what's a good number for me to have for you in case I need to call you or want to follow up? And so I gave her my number. And when she called, she goes, you have a knack for this. So would you like to be a volunteer? There it began. I started with them as a volunteer. Then I volunteered for another organization, got on a board, and I was in that volunteer role for a number of years. But then I changed communities, and a friend of mine who was part of relocating me to a new community for a business purpose said, this nonprofit needs a new executive director. Never been in the nonprofit sector. She goes, I think you'd be good. I'm thinking, I think you're crazy. I don't have the skills. I don't know how to do it. She goes, you run a business. And mind you, I'm telling anybody listening to this that thinks that's a straight across transfer. It's not. What she was a great salesperson. But I interviewed, I got the job, and I learned within the first month, actually within the first week, that we had a budget that would last for 1 month. So I basically started in a sinking ship. But the one thing I did learn was people wanted us to succeed. So I reached out, got help, all of that stuff. Where now today I would have hopped on the internet, found out who could help me, got samples and all that stuff. It didn't exist. But that led to another nonprofit. And then, years later, I was asked if I wanted to move into consulting to help nonprofits. So that nonprofits and state, collaborations across the state, which I did. And the great thing was the commonalities among trouble they are very common to business because it's people, it's systems, it's all similar. But nonprofits have a little bit tougher go of it because people often don't know about them until like they're in a place where they need them. And then they're going, who can help me with this? So, all of that transition, I still stayed on boards and did nonprofit work, but I really value nonprofits and what they bring to communities because they're a vital part or a vital piece of the fabric of every community that one lives in.
That's
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So that just shows that the background that you were called to has brought you through this then from the beginning of just trying to figure it all out to a place that you're actually working with nonprofits every day now. And that.
Yeah, and the great thing is I realized I felt really alone at that time until one person said, well, I'll help you out, right? And they weren't supposed to. Their quote unquote official job description at the state was, you're not supposed to coach these guys. You're supposed to just move them through a process. And she goes, but you can't tell anybody. But I also learned that there are a lot of people who just have a simple question or they need to know like they're not going the wrong direction. And it takes so much burden off. And in the nonprofit sector, one of the things is people are investing in you, donors, funders, all that. So there's a motivation for not looking weak or incompetent as a leader and an organization, right? You've got to look like you've got everything together. And so there's a common and understandable reluctance to say we're struggling with this, right? People don't want to put it out there. But the more you say that and you say, what are you guys doing about this? Like, what have you found that really helps you in X situation? And from someone who's in the trenches or has been in the trenches, it really helps other people. So that kind of is a motivation for this platform for us, at least in my opinion. But I'm interested in what your perspectives are on it.
Well, I'm sorry, Summer, go ahead.
Oh, go.
We're so excited to answer this question. I think with the nonprofits, Sarah, to your point, they feel isolated. So our platform, as Ken mentioned, this podcast is going to create like the common connection amongst nonprofits. So we can amplify each other's voices, provide solutions, build a stronger nonprofit sector in general, because, the world is an uncertain place right now. And I think we're all trying to find our footing and find some stability. So if we can reach out to similar folks who are in similar situations, we can find some camaraderie there and, really find a way to move ourselves forward.
And I echo Summer's sentiments there. And to add to that, as a seasoned storyteller as I am, everyone has a story to tell. Just like you shared with us, Sarah. That story means something. That story has an impact. That story can inspire, encourage, and lift up another to move forward with what they need to do in this life, what they're called to do. And it's hard for nonprofits every day to be dealing with the daily tasks at hand, right? You had a budget that was going to be gone in a month. In your case, to be dealing with that, but also to then have a community bigger than themselves, to interact with their community, why they're there in the first place, and then now to have a network of folks that they can then ping pong ideas off of or glean some insights from, so they can have help. I think having a place to come to on that and talk through would be a place that anyone is be welcome to. And so that's the drive behind this, is capturing that and sharing it. More than just holding it to yourself, you're sharing with others. Everyone has a key for someone else's success, and that's one of the motivations behind this, is to share those keys with one another, right?
Yeah, that, and sometimes people, you have a skill or a strength that, because it's so second nature to you, you don't notice it. So I've worked with nonprofits, they think, oh, it's no big deal. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? People would kill for that, right? They would just be so thrilled to know, like, your quote unquote secret sauce. And so I want to celebrate the successes and ask people, like, what really worked for you? Because, you think nonprofits as a bucket, they're very different from one another. They might be in a small community, a rural community, urban. It's all different on how you interact and the things you can draw on and ideas, but they can be adaptable. So I love the opportunity this presents, and I see down the road also being able to bring guests back and do something interactive with people, panels and that type of thing. So anyway, I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent again.
No, that's a lot for viewers to look forward to in the episodes coming on. And I know we've reached out to a few folks to kick this off, and we got some great feedback and responses. And I know you've interviewed a few folks already, but just without giving names and things, what kinds of things can they expect in the episodes coming up?
Well, some surprising things is, like, one of the organizations who they thought they had to wait on something just because of disasters in our nation, right? They've already had someone reach out to them and say, hey, we want you to expand. And they're thinking, okay, that was unexpected, right? Because they made assumptions. So that was very interesting to me. Now, another organization talked more about, they are a nonprofit, but they talked more about how to be credible with funders and how they can direct people who don't know enough about nonprofits. They're not confident, but they want to donate and they want to be involved. And this is kind of an intermediary organization. Really great tips. So I'm excited. And then, we're recording this in March. We're going to launch later, but I have two more folks today I'm super excited to interview, very different from one another. One's in like cinematic video to tell nonprofits. Another's in a total system, a statewide system, right? So very different, complex organizations, but everybody has something important to share and for us to learn from.
I love it. Real people, real stories, like practical solutions, not just inspirational kind of fluffiness. And because of that, we can actually pull out real insights that we can apply to everyday circumstances. So I think the guests that we have on deck are going to be really transformational and share their stories in a way where we can all learn from them.
I agree. I think that's that's a great summary of it, Summer. So far, they've all been inspirational.
Yeah.
But we want something a little more than that. We want something applicable, something practical.
Oh. Well, and I think when we listen deeply and we're actually curious about what someone's saying, it's so easy. And I'm not immune to this, right? I can hear someone saying something, and the natural tendency, if someone's saying this was a challenge, oh, I know how you could fix that, right? Instead of staying curious and say, so then what did you do? how did you work through that? What might you suggest to others who are in your place, right? Something tangible, like you say, Summer, like if you were going to have to do this over and start somewhere, what are the top 3 questions you would answer?
And
So
I think that's one of our strengths, because we stop, we ask questions, we actually dive a little bit deeper than just a superficial, yes, no answer. We really want to learn about, where you come from and how you got there.
in a very lighthearted way, it could feel like a little bit of a fun interrogation.
True.
Well, it's not just like you get to come through a script that you pre-set up before you meet with us. It's more like, hey, so then what happened? What do you know? Can you share something? And I honestly, when I interview people, I am so curious that I'm invested in their answer. It's not a right or wrong answer, but I'm so interested in learning. So Ken, where are you at with that?
Well, so I've had enough conversations with you. I've been interviewed by you as well, and it's sitting down with you is like having a cozy cup of tea on a very nice veranda and just chatting through the day. And that's how I find it to be. It's very easy. And in that kind of environment, though, it's not scripted. It's very much, as Summer said, real stories, real people, real challenges, and real things to overcome. And folks that may be guests on the show, they may have a challenge they don't know how to overcome. Someone else will hear that, and then they'll get in touch with them. And that's part of this too, is it's building a bigger and wider community that can help one another. And that's the hope of this too, right?
I think that was one of our main hopes, don't you think, Ken and Summer? You guys really, on the designing of it, thought about community.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And Sarah, you and I have been in some storytelling situations where we found that there's so much that interacts between, just by being on the other side of the hill, as we call it, but just by being some location geographically miles away from another nonprofit, they're still dealing with the same issues, but they may not have the same resources, or they may be doing something so spectacular that it works for them. But oh goodness, if you could just share that and scale that differently for another nonprofit that could say, oh, we could do that, we could utilize that. It just makes everyone better, and it serves the human population that much better. And that
Nonprofits today is going to be much more than a podcast. It's going to be a place for connection and collaboration. So, nonprofit leaders don't have to feel alone when they're putting out those fires every day. They can, join a network where people can learn and find real solutions and, talk about everyday problems. Maybe it's just to vent about what happened that day, but finding a community is really important.
I often say that nonprofits are heroes. A show like Nonprofits Day is hero support. And that's just to help prop them up and give them the tools,
Hero support. I like it. So where do we go from here, guys? Yeah.
I mean, really, we're just asking people to kind of follow our story, to get interested, to understand, where we're going to take this newest project. And we want you to follow us along, come along for the ride. So we're going to put a link where you can sign up to get the most recent information on the podcast, so that when we launch, you'll be able to find out where to listen to us. Obviously, we're on all the popular channels, Apple Podcasts and Acast and all of those. So just be on the lookout for us on social media, and check out the link in the show notes.
Well, and the one thing too is, I'm sitting here thinking, when are we going to launch? We're going to launch in May. So no matter when you're listening to this, our launch date will be May 6th. I believe we said, don't hold me to it'll be that week. But May 6th, and then we'll go from there. Also, if you have a great guest or you think that you should be interviewed, when you sign up using that link, just email us and say, hey, this is us. We've overcome X. We think our story might be helpful. And we're really interested in learning about that. So you can reach out, and then we have a system. We're very organized on this, and we can get back to you and decide if it's a fit for you or not. But we do want to have people engage with one another and build cross connection with nonprofits. So Ken, can you bring us home?
Well, just in this conversation, listen, we all share in the human experience every day. Each one of us that are human, and that's all of us listening and watching. we're human and we share in that human experience. And, by coming together, um, we can overcome many things by sharing, by giving, by sharing the keys to success, by sharing the things that we've gleaned and learned over time, even by sharing the things that we know didn't work. Any of these things, though, it just makes it better for everybody, right? And so, as Summer was saying in the beginning, the world is not it's not always rosy, happy, happy, happy. And a lot of nonprofits are dealing with very hard, dark things, and they are making such an impact. There, I've seen, oh my goodness, the smiles, I've seen the hugs, I've seen the tears, I've seen people come up out of the worst of things because of a nonprofit like yours that's listening right now. And that story needs to be shown. That story needs to be heard. And I'm just thrilled to have a platform like this, another platform that we have now that we can offer, where that could be shown and told and listened to and help teach one another.
So, folks, we look forward to seeing you on May 6th. Hoping you'll join us on that date. If not, that you'll do a binge watch right after that. And Ken and Summer, as always, thanks for hanging out, sharing the platform, and having some great insights and fun.
We're just getting started.
Thank you.